Hello, everyone. This is W, host of this podcast feature known as Surprise Cast. Take a listen to this. One of my favorite musicians, singer-songwriter Jose Gonzalez, released one of the best albums of the year, Against the Dying of the Light. Easily. The lyrics, instrumentation. But let's not forget about the audio production quality. Who do we have to thank for that? That would be Hans Olsson, Swedish CEO, producer, musician, mixer, master engineer. Well, he's here to join me to discuss the seeds of inspiration, production philosophy, the creative process, this Jose Gonzalez album, and much, much more. So grab yourself a refreshing drink, have a seat on a warm, comfy couch, and enjoy my conversation. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being here. I'm going to read you a quote, my friend, and this is by the great musician, producer, Pharrell Williams. This is what Pharrell says. Inspiration is everywhere if you're willing to listen. Hans, what drew your first breath toward music production and audio engineering?
I grew up in the north of Sweden, or Sweden is very long. It's actually in the middle of Sweden, but everyone think that the 2/3 that are above the capital city, that's the northern parts. So I grew up listening to, The Cure, for example, and very much electronic music. One of my elder brothers formed me in my music tastes. A lot of the Mute Records bands, Depeche Mode, Night's Reb, Erasure, and of course with Night's Reb it's Front 242 and it's 9 Inch Nails and what have you. And I think maybe I was 5 when I got my first Depeche Mode single in Christmas present from him, and it's called The Heart from 1985. And with all of that music, I think your curiosity about sounds is it's easy. You get interested and you hear things and you listen in your headphones, even if you're just a kid. And, me and my best friends watched the 101 concert on the tapes and live in Hamburg and pretended to be them and had our shows and started our own band. And it was a lot of music all the time, both, of course, listening to records, but as well, I did play the saxophone from the age of 7 or 8. And then, thanks to one of my brothers, I started to have a home recording studio as well with synthesizers. And, I had this Commodore Amiga 500 first that I bought from him, of course. And when he swapped his Atari 1040E, or was it called, to a Mac, I bought the Atari. And when he bought a new Mac, I took over his old Mac. And he helped me, of course, and was really generous about, I could be in his room, try out his synthesizers, borrow his albums or his records. And of course, shaped my interest in electronic music and sounds and stuff.
I want to talk about the philosophy behind your work. So I'm going to again read some quotes here and then ask you a few questions. The first quote in terms of philosophy comes from Bono, frontman for U2. And this is what he says. Music can change the world because it can change people. David Bowie says this, you don't make music for yourself, you make music for people. And then finally, Van Morrison says this, music is spiritual. The music business is not. So, in terms of your philosophy, Hans, what makes a good recording feel emotionally alive and authentic to you?
I mean, it's easy to think of alive or authentic that it should be a recording of an artist sitting in a room or playing acoustic instruments or playing together in a band or whatever. But I mean, again, talking about electronic music, it's maybe even a bigger difference between a song that feels alive or authentic than and a bad produced electronic work. So, but I think, as I said, the interesting production ideas, the details, the layers, dynamics. I mean, if everything's super loud all the time, I mean, we're kind of a stupid animal, the humans. We can listen and feel, wow, this is massive, but maybe in just 30 or 60 seconds, we don't understand that anymore. It's just then we need these the dynamic parts where we here can compare to maybe if it's a massive chorus, then we need maybe to take it down to afterwards to understand when the second chorus comes that it's getting massive again, or if it's really something could be really distorted or heavy. But if you can't compare that to something maybe a bit more quiet or beautiful or shimmering or what have you, then we don't understand after a while that it is very massive or heavy or distorted. So I think the dynamic in both, of course, volume, but as well energy and details is important, I think.
You are a library of knowledge when it comes to music. And in terms of your production work, what do you think music lovers misunderstand most about the skills of mixing and or mastering an album?
I mean, a lot of people, maybe not myself because I'm into working with this, have this opportunity to be able to work with music, but a lot of people listen to music and all of the technical aspects are maybe not that interesting because it's the songs. It's the songs and the vocals and the lyrics and the production is super important for everyone. But I think a lot of people don't think about it because it's just something carrying the lyrics or carrying the song. Of course, people listen to music and can, even if you're not into the music business or it's just a listener, of course you can hear a song and think, yeah, this sounds great. This is a good sounding album or a good sounding song. And wow, this is a cool mix. Mastering, I don't think people know what mastering is. And that doesn't matter. You should just listen to music and hopefully get feelings out of the music that you hear, connect emotionally to the songs and the music. But if someone asks me what I'm doing, what do I work with, what's mastering, then I can explain that.
In your production work, do you feel that you are trying to chase after a particular mood and atmosphere? Because I'm going to tell you, before we go deeper into Against the Dying of the Light album by Jose Gonzalez, I feel this album one of the reasons why I love it so much is because you and other people involved have created this wonderful, rich atmosphere that draws the listener in, that makes them feel like it's an intimate setting, and away you go.
It's the most important thing of all. I mean, the feelings while working with the music, while listening to music, while being in the studio. If you record a band, you've been connecting all the mics, you've been placing the mics around the drum kits. Everyone has their, headphone mixers set up with a good sound and a good feeling. Maybe you've been working with the light in the studio, or everyone should see each other, or you record in the same room. But I mean, the vibe in the studio and when you listen to the takes in the speakers in the control room, I mean, that's the only important thing, actually. Everything around is just it's just around. It's super important. I mean, the mix, the mastering, the recording. Most of the time, I have an assistant working with me a lot of times, but the engineering, sitting by the console and pushing record in Pro Tools or whatever program you work with. I mean, all of the technical aspects are there all the time, and if something starting to mess up a mic, these old, vintage mics from the 60s or whatever, start to behave strangely. Of course, you need to be quick and maybe fix it or find a solution. So there's a lot of hats at the same time.
Absolutely. And I marvel at that. Amazing. Prince, he says this: the beautiful thing about making music is that there are no rules. He was a rule breaker in so many ways. So let's talk about the process in your work. What does a memorable, creative session look like for you? And how do you know, Hans, when you are in that moment?
A lot of times I think that you, of course, have the feeling in the moment that you're doing something good or great or amazing, because you've been diving into a project or an album, working with the band and the artist, and everything around the record company, and if you're the producer, it's a long way before you go into the studio as well. But most of the time, I think you understand in the moment that something is happening here. It's a sparkle, or it's burning, or whatever. But when it's those really amazing moments, you understand that even more afterwards. When you look back and you understand, have I been into this room with these people? Either when you listen to the recording or when you look back. These days you take a lot of photos or film when you're in the studio, and you can look back on the session and remember amazing moments.
And I spoke to a musician, producer / DJ extraordinaire last year, and he said this: when there's moments whilst working with an artist or musician inside that studio, when he feels like his feet are coming off the ground, that's when he knows something magical is happening. Do you get that? Those goosebumps? Yeah.
Absolutely. And somehow, most of the time, you work so closely to the artist or the band that it's a shared feeling as well. And maybe all of the individual feelings together are huge.
Yeah.
Somehow, I think you feel it together in the room, and somehow that feeling grows even bigger when you're in that situation with those people involved in a way?
I've been waiting to ask you this next question. Very excited to hear your answer. But before I ask you, I want to give you a little background. I was an elementary school teacher for many years. Often, I would do my lesson plans. Probably 60-70% of it was very controlled. And the remaining part of that was improvised when I delivered the lesson. And that improvisation came from Robin Williams, the actor. Huge inspiration for me. So I want to know, Hans, in your field of work, how much do you plan versus allowing spontaneous execution to happen?
As a person, I'm kind of, I can't explain it maybe in English, kind of a square. I love to have the same kind of shoes. When my shoes are worn out, looking for hopefully exactly the same. That would be the best. When I go and buy new trousers, I most of the time buy exactly the same as I had before, because that feels good for me. People around me think I'm stupid, but they work in another way. That's okay. And I think maybe because of that as well, some technical aspects, while recording, I'm not only recording in Svenska Grammofonstudion, but a lot of sessions I do in Studio One over here on the old Queen Neve console that was in Switzerland in Mountain Studios before, owned by Queen since the end of the 70s and during a few years after Freddie Mercury died. Amazing console. And of course, if I should record a drum kit, I almost always use exactly the same miking. I place it underneath the maybe not as high roof in the studio room. I use the same channels. I use the Neve 1066 for the kick and snare and toms, but maybe I don't use it for the overhead mics. I use the APIs for maybe the Coles. So in that way, as with my clothes, I kind of do the same setup because I know it sounds amazing. The room sounds amazing if I put the drums over there. If I use those mics, it will sound amazing. And I think that's, of course, a preparing stage. And at the same time, that allows me to be totally spontaneous in all of the other aspects of the recording situation. I can be spontaneous in totally focus on what I hear in the speakers, or go down and talk to the musicians, or maybe I think I don't have to think about the technical aspects. I can focus on the songs. I can focus on, should we play a bit harder in the second chorus? Or should we try to take the tempo up just a tiny bit? Because all of the technical aspects are already prepared and I don't have to focus as much on that.
Can we talk about this wonderful, amazing album by Jose Gonzalez, Against the Dying of the Light? When this first came out, I remember messaging you immediately, praising how much I already embraced it within a few listens. And now that I'm on my 50th listen, I keep hearing new things. I keep feeling new things, which as a listener is very important for me. So before we go into the technical stuff here, could you remind the audience and share your connection, your friendship with Jose, and how did this get started?
Actually, it started, I wasn't involved in his first album released in 2004, I think. He recorded that one at home in his kitchen, and it was mixed and mastered by some friend of his. I can't remember. But this second album, In Our Nature, released 2007, I think, was... Then Jose had a room here in the studio, a small recording room. And I think he recorded that album up there and then mixed that album in the Studio One, together with both, I think, Don Alsterberg and Kalle Gustafsson Järneholm. And I was asked to master that album. So that was the first time I worked with Jose. Yeah. So I started to work with In Our Nature. Then I did master both of the UNIP albums as well. The band, Jose released 2 albums after In Our Nature. I mixed 3 songs on the second UNIP album as well. And then for the solo albums after that, Vestiges and Claws, we did some, Jose mixed that one as himself, but we did, I can't remember if we had some stems and had kind of a pre-mastering, not mix, but pre-mastering session while we sat in my mix studio and ran those stems, I think, through some things before the mastering. And then Local Valley, we did mix in my studio. Amazing album, I think, as well. And really funny because I got a lot of nice words after that one from both people I know and people I don't know about the sound, that it sounds very much like him and the way he's always been sounding, with the harmonies and of course the guitar playing and the vocals and stuff. But people thought it sounded totally new. And I think, for me, that was the best, words to hear, because I think I took my approach into that album. It's still his recording, it's his music, and he has for every album, Jose has a very clear idea about how this album should sound. If we go back to Local Valley again, I remember he was talking a lot of, big rooms or church reverbs and stuff. And so he has a very clear idea about the sound in his head, but at the same time, he's very open to input from people that he trusts and work with and so on. So for Local Valley, for example, I added my approach in how I mix vocals when I do for example, hip hop stuff or electronic stuff or whatever, with some kind of, stereo with thing, some kind of this. We shouldn't go maybe too much into the technical side of things, but there's a plugin emulated from Mix Technique from the 80s where you can get really a brightness, an openness to sounds and vocals, for example, that you can use that plugin to add it. It's not only EQ, it's not only high frequencies, it's something else as well. It's some kind of both EQ side, but it's compression and it's hard to explain. But we used that one on his vocals as well. And I think the people listening to it feel that it's him 100%, but as well it's something a bit new in a way.
Trying to make sense of a now. trying to make sense of a past to show us how visions, imagining the worlds that could be, shaping a mosaic fate for all sentient beings. Visions, cycles of growth and decay, cascading chains of events.
When you hear songs that you have worked on with him, do you get that goosebump feeling? Do you get that energy? And if so, what songs on this album, the new album, provides that rich nourishment for you?
I really think I can listen to music. Of course, I don't only listen to things I've been working with myself. That would be hilarious. But I can really listen to things I've been working with. Either it's mix or production or mastering or whatever, and really enjoy it and be both happy and proud of the sound. And with the songs with Jose, I can really listen to that either if it's when I sometimes I put his songs on when I wake my kids in the morning before we should go to school, and I can listen to it even if it's just a small speaker of the phone, and be very happy about how they sound. I haven't listened to Local Valley for a while, or I hadn't listened to it, and then I put some songs on for a few weeks ago, and I'm very goosebumps, or at least the feeling when you're really, really happy to be part of something.
There's a track on here called Against the Dying of the Light. And like Every Age, immediately it just clicks with me. And I was trying to get inside your head as a producer with these songs. How the hell do you know when the song is done, when it's complete?
With Jose and this album, he's producing himself. He's recording the songs in his studio. Some of the songs on this album as well, but a lot on the Local Valley album, he did record them. We did actually mix them. And then I think he realized that he wanted to re-record them. So for Local Valley, for example, not the whole album, but a kind of a big part of the album is recorded, I guess loads of times. But at least for me, I mixed some of the songs in 2 or 3 different versions, because I think maybe it's when he hear the final mix, he maybe got the feeling that he wanted to do them in maybe a tiny bit different way. And for this new album as well, I know that he had a lot of different versions going. I think it was only 2 songs we did mix. I did mix 2 different versions. But for me, in the mix phase of the album production, I think whatever album or music or song I work with, of course, I take inputs from the artist or the band, or if I just mix something and there's another producer involved, I, of course, try to understand what they're looking for, their vision for this song or this album or this part of the artist's career in a way. And then I'm trying to put my fingerprint on that idea or be part of capturing that idea, shape that into something amazing. But of course, I think about that at a starting point, but then I only go with the flow and do what comes to mind while mixing a song, for example. And then sometimes, of course, I can get back, maybe we go away from this Against the Dying of the Light album maybe, but if I work with a band and then I do a mix and I get the feeling that this drums should be super compressed or very, very heavy or whatever, and then maybe I send over a mix if the band or someone from the band isn't with me in the studio. I maybe email or use Dropbox or whatever a mix, and then maybe I can get back, wow, this is amazing. We haven't thought about doing this compressed smashy drum sound. Or I can get back, cool, but maybe this isn't what we were looking for. We have to do something else. But I think it's important when you're in this position of either you're a producer or you're a mixer or whatever, you have to add your ideas. Because if you don't do that, what's the point? Then you can let an AI mix the album, or you can ask someone else. But if we go back to Jose, now we have a really long working relationship, and I know he has long working relationships with, the guys doing the front of house sound on the tour in US now that you visited a week back. He's been working with them for 25 years as well.
What tools, plugins did you use in supporting the work here?
Most of the time, I have 3 different mixing setups in my studio. I have an old SSL console from the early 80s, a 40-channel analog console that sounds amazing. I actually mix an album on that one now, but most of the time, the situation these days with how we work with music and, everyone is so much into this computerized in the box mixing thing that working in the analog world, then you have to make the decisions. You have to decide, now this mix is ready. Now we go on to the next one. And the old mix is it's printed or recorded, but you can't tweak it anymore. And a lot of times that's not so practical. So most of the time I don't mix on the big console, even if it's amazing. It sounds great. The second setup is a really old EMI vintage console. Yeah, it's in the background there, from the early 70s. It's a smaller console and built from parts from the EMI TG12345 console from the EMI studio in the Netherlands, in Bovema. That console was sold to the US, and I can't remember if it was sold to, whatever. It ended up in Florida, and the guy owning it in Florida took it apart and built 3 sidecars. And I have one of them here in my studio since a few years. So sometimes I mix on that one, kind of more of a summing stem mix thing. And then the third way is mixing in the box in Pro Tools, but I have a valve summing mixer. So I could take it out in the analog domain with this analog valve summing mixer, running it through an analog mix bus EQ and compressor. So I have all of the recall and stuff from the computer world, and I have the sound of the analog gear in the end. So Against the Dying of the Light was mixed in the box, but running it through this summing mixer.
If the theme of this album, or one of the themes, is to go inside the light of who we are in a really dark and cynical world, if that is one of his approaches, his ideas in the creation of this album, is that something you talk about together? Or does he just say, Hans, here's my vision for the album, here's my emotional undertone, and then you help create those sounds? Or do you actually talk about the world, the darkness, the light?
I was about to say we talk quite a lot. We don't talk quite a lot, but we talk about, he's so extremely interested in both people and the world and what's happening in the world as well from his perspective. You know, he was studying, medical biology on an extremely high level. You know, the last album, Local Valley, we did work with that one during the pandemic, and a lot of people, of course, it was a really strange time, strange years for everyone. But for him as well, it was really interesting years because from a medical side of things, he was really, interested in talking about it from that perspective. So we talk a lot about the world, and we talk a lot about what's happening here and now, and we talk a lot about, our kids and what they do, football training, soccer training, and stuff. And of course, we talk about the vision of the album, maybe more in production and sound kind of way, but of course, everything is connected. The sound has to be right for his vision to reach the listeners, of course. Funny thing is, and I shouldn't maybe say, well, the first song released from the album, we did mix that beforehand, early autumn last year, because it was about to be released already. Can't remember if it was released. He was going to the US on a 2-week tour. So we did mix that one before that tour because the song would be released maybe together with the tour. I can't remember. And for that song, there was a video made, 2 videos. One video with his daughter filmed him while playing the song in a bird suit, sitting in the kids' room, playing the guitar, singing the song. And, you hear his younger kid as well fooling around. It's amazing, beautiful. That was one of the singles. The videos. The second video was a bird, an AI-made video with a bird. And it wasn't kind of strange because he's always, into commenting the world we live in now. We live in a world where AI is part of our lives, and it was clear that he did prompt the video. He had the idea. He wanted to try that as a tool to see how that did fit the music and how the reaction was from the audience. And the audience was extremely angry about this video. Yeah. Super, 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 super angry about this AI-made video with a bird. They loved the video when he was in a bird suit playing his guitar in the kids' room. So when he came back from the tour in the US and we were about to continue mixing the rest of the songs for the album, he realized that he wanted the album to be even more authentic and get the feeling that you're in the room with him playing. So more of this stereo Neumann valve room mic, more of the feeling that we're in the room. So in the end, the audience was part of shaping the sound of the album because of the reaction to that AI video.
That is incredible. Wow. There are so many great tracks on here, starting with The Perfect Storm, as I mentioned, Against the Dying Light, Sheep, Pajarito. And I'm telling everyone this right now, not to get preachy, but if you can see him live, it is worth every fucking penny. You will walk away slightly different. You will see the world and feel the world in a different perspective. At least that's been my experience over the 2 times that I've seen them. And he just really seems to understand how to be a professional musician on stage whilst connecting with his audience and sharing a little bit of who he is. Congratulations on this album. I want to read some reviews people have shared. The indie review says this: it praised the album for its greatness, hypnotic acoustic textures, noting influences from Saharan desert blues while emphasizing its meditative atmosphere and lyrical depth. Mixdown says this, describes the record as melancholy, soft, uplifting. Absolutely. And Tastemakers magazine called it a nesting doll of sound and story. Is there anything else you'd like to share about this album that we have not discussed?
Yeah, funny thing, while working, as I said before, with Local Valley, I introduced Jose to some new plugins and working techniques. And or maybe I think it was after the album was mixed, mastered, and maybe not released, but sent to the factory. He asked me, what plugins did you use for the vocals, for example, or whatever? And I told him what I did use. And now, these years later, when he asked if I wanted to mix this new album, all of a sudden he uses those plugins in his production, in the shaping of the songs and the sound, because he's really into that as well. He's really doing kind of in-depth production, or what do you say, demo mixes along the way to hear the sound he wants to shape. Then I think for almost all of the songs I got the clean sounds, but as well I got a lot of print screens of his reverb plugins and stuff, so I could get inspired. And sometimes I used that, and sometimes I added my own reverb setup to the songs. But it's really interesting because he did use, for example, this Type A plugin from Audio Thing, but he used it in a totally different way that I do. So I in the end I showed him, this vocal sounds amazing. What did you use for what plugins? Yeah, well, I used this one. Cool. Then I use it in a different way. So I used it for making noise again, making not this high-end open thing that I use, but instead he found that it's amazing, fantastic noise plugin, doing something different with it. And as well, he wanted me to work more with, distortion on this album than compression. So it's in the mix, it's almost no compression at all. But instead, when the vocals get really loud, it's pushing into a distortion unit instead. So it's, okay, it's getting loud, and now it's getting small because it's pushing this distortion limit or roof instead. And I mean, in the end of Against the Dying Light song, when it's, it's just acoustic guitar and vocals, but it's still so extremely smashing, aggressive and loud and desperate and angry and what have you, where it's, sound-wise, it's hitting that roof in the perfect way, where it's just not freaking out. It's still Jose Gonzalez we're talking about here, but it's the sound and in at that point distortion is part of connecting him and the lyrics to the listener, I think.
Who is Jose Gonzalez to you?
One of the kindest and smartest people. And sometimes, when I go with the car and maybe I'm on my way to football practice with my own son's team, then I pass him. He's maybe going to the football practice with his daughter, same club, but different years. So, and yeah, he's a nice guy.
I want to read another quote to you. This is by the great music producer, Rick Rubin. And this is what he says. The best collaborations happen when ego disappears and the song becomes the focus. What qualities, in your opinion, Hans, make an artist especially exciting to work with?
Yeah, when you have a lot of music business things are so individual today, because it's possible. It's possible, as I said before, you can do the records at home. You don't have to work with people. You can do it all yourself, and that's okay. That's totally okay. A lot of people do amazing things, and I mean, if we take Jose Gonzalez for example, he did record his first album in the kitchen with really basic setup, and yeah, he got some help with mix and mastering at that time, but and then he did this cover of the Knife, the Heartbeats song, and it was picked for this Sony commercial with all of the, what do you say, the balls, going down the steep road, and it was so massive. But of course you can do albums that way, and of course you can do an album however you like and however you want. But actually, I didn't see the Swedish Grammy 2 weeks back, but I on social media I saw a clip from a speech. The guy who won the Producer of the Year, he said that, firstly he said that I'm happy that someone got this prize that actually work as a producer. And as well, he said, I'm not so scared. To me as a producer, he said, AI isn't the biggest threat. It's all of the artists producing themselves. That's the biggest threat for him as a producer. And sometimes maybe I think that, yeah, you can do amazing things. And in my role as a mix engineer or mastering engineer, I hear a lot of music. In a mastering studio, loads and loads and loads of music, and a lot of things are really great. And some things could have been so much better. Maybe, okay, the record label signs an artist, and the producer starting to record, and they work with the album, and the record label think that, yeah, these production demo mixes sound kind of good. We let the producer mix the album. We don't hire a mix engineer. The producer can mix the album. And a lot of times, I mean, there are many super talented people out there here in Sweden or anywhere, but that mix great music and produce great music, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't know, because they haven't been mixing music for 20 years. Maybe they don't know that you have to, work with the S sounds, for example. They don't know that you maybe if you try to make an album or a song that should compare with the 1 million mixes from the US, and then you have a super nice production, but there's a lot of these sounds, or super heavy breathing, or super sharp S sounds, or whatever. It's really annoying. You will never listen to the song and think, wow, this is a $1 million song. Maybe you as a listener can't put the finger on what is it. It's maybe they don't think, the listeners don't think about the S sounds, but somehow the feeling is it's not 100% well done.
Yeah. One of my favorite musicians, Imogen Heap, she says this: computers are allowing us to push the boundaries of sound in ways we never imagined. Final question regarding sound, process, technology, all that. Are there aspects of older recording methods you feel are disappearing?
I think the approach to music production is maybe not disappearing, but I hope that enough of us want to keep doing this in a sometimes old school way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's about the techniques, but I mean, we use these old equipment. I used to say it's amazing. I can't think of any other business that use this old crappy stuff. Of course, maybe a vintage photographer that uses an old school camera from the 40s or whatever. And as well, old nuclear plants are really, really old. But no one use 70-year-old stuff or 60. I mean, the EMI console is 55 years old.
Wow.
And it's working and it sounds amazing. And when you think about it, it's totally stupid. It shouldn't be able to be that way. But I mean, we love that sound as well. But we work with both the ultra modern, super new things, the old ones.
I love that. You're merging the two worlds together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, as you said, the computer is fantastic tape machine.
Yeah. What has your job, what has music, Hans, taught you about yourself? How has it shaped you as a person?
I'm not sure if music shaped me or if my personality has been only a helpful way of being while working with this. But I think, when I sometimes talk to students studying music productions or pre-production or audio engineering or whatever, they ask, of course, things about my way from studying myself to where I am today. And I think that these the boring things, being in time, keeping the schedule, make everything run smoothly through a session, have a feeling for everyone's moods in the room, keeping people happy. All of those things are as important as the feeling about sound.
And do you feel that being a father has helped you in your career, or has your career helped you become a better father?
Good question. I'm very happy to be a father because when I have my kids 50% of the time, their schedule and times help me in a way. I mean, I have so much to do, so I could easily work all the hours of the week. But that's not a good thing. It's really important to do other things, and I'm very, very happy about where I am and where I've been for now soon 24 years in the music business.
At the beginning of the school year, all the parents would come to the classroom called Back to School Night. And that's where I got to talk about my program as a teacher and what I hope to incorporate that year for that class. Basically a chance for me to sell myself. And I loved it because I had no hesitations on being proud of who I was as a teacher. So why should I come to you if I want your services? What makes you unique? What makes you special?
That's a very hard question to answer. I guess I have an approach to sound and people that not everyone, but a lot of people seems to like that approach.
And what is that approach?
That's very hard to say. Actually, it's the second time. I've been in a podcast before. I thought this was the first time, but it's a lot of years now. It's called Musikprodpodden, Music Production Podcast. Almost like that. And I think the a line under my name in that program was like super expensive lo-fi. And I think that kind of, maybe that makes sense, because I think something really, I really like when it could be broken, but it has to sound expensive as well at the same time. Only broken, then you can, of course you can distort things and you can it sounds blah. But if it doesn't sound, maybe not expensive is the good word, but you understand, it really has to sound well done at the same time. And I think if you can sound-wise mix those two things, maybe not lo-fi, maybe not distortion, but again, the dynamic between beautiful and broken, loud and quiet, production or mix, to have those things in the same song or the same sound or the same mix. If it's lo-fi or broken all the time, it gets boring. But if it sounds beautiful and broken at the same time, that's good.
Fuck yeah, you said that beautifully. I love it. I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker. Okay, let's wrap up this conversation with a little bit of fun time. I'm just going to ask you some questions. Whatever comes to your head, shoot it off. Are you ready?
Yep.
What are some great headphone test albums that you would recommend?
I mean, the Violator album, Depeche Mode, is from 1990, is amazing. Francois Kevorkian mixed it in Axis Studios in New York, I think. Yeah, totally amazing.
Analog or digital?
Both is good, but I'm not that kind of guy that sometimes people say if it's running through tape, it's amazing.
Yeah,
but it's not. It depends on the song.
You have mentioned Violator, Depeche Mode several times throughout this conversation. Could you tell us another record with what you feel is perfectly mixed, mastered, engineered?
Actually, I remember listening to some albums around year 2000 when I decided to study sound engineering, and maybe the years after that as well. And I think some albums with the American band Grandaddy shaped my sound in a way, and actually I had the pleasure of producing an album together with Jason, a Swedish band called Division of Laura Lee, kind of a punk rock, really, really, sometimes really aggressive music. And he added some of his, fantastic melodies and synths and harmonies. Amazing guy, Jason Little. Super, super, super guy. But I think of both Someday and the Software Slump. The Software Slump, it's kind of funny because I did talk to him about that and realized, or he told me that he mixed it himself and I felt that he felt embarrassed about the sound or the end result. And I think it sounds amazing to me. But the album, I think, maybe I remember wrong, but the album after Someday, I think, they recorded in the studio in his house, And then they took it to New York, I think, to mix it in a super studio. It has both the lo-fi, the really expensive sound of the mix.
Oh, granddaddy. Oh, yeah. From the Bay Area, or Sacramento, I should say. Hans, do you prefer those coffee-fueled late-night sessions or early morning studio work?
I think I'm the one in this studio complex that's here the earliest, some days at least, but I can be here at night too. I think it's both. Both is good.
There were many teachers from other schools I'd love to have worked with. Teachers, obviously, when I was a kid. So tell us an artist or two that from the past you would have loved to have worked with.
Oh, of course, it's a lot of electronics things that comes to mind. Maybe I wouldn't want to work with Kraftwerk, but it would be amazing to be, a fly on the wall in the Kling Klang studio in Düsseldorf. It would be amazing to work with Alan Wilder, for example. Of course, Bowie.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to listen to the music. There's records as well.
Sure.
I mean, all of the album means a lot. It's fantastic. And today as well, it's fantastic. You can be in touch with your idols. You can write to mixers or producers who worked on the album, your favorite albums in the 80s, and you can ask them, "Do you remember? Was it in this room you mixed this song?" Yeah.
Yeah.
In social media and stuff, it's the world is being both bigger and smaller at the same time. That's cool.
Final question. I learned about your past, a very interesting past, and the road that you've taken, the hard work that you've put into your own work and craft. Who are you today?
I think I'm kind of nice, curious person that still hear and find new sounds and new ways, and still love music, even if I do listen to music almost all the time. But at the same time, I'm really, really happy, as you mentioned before. Very happy to be a father, very happy to be a football coach or soccer coach, to say in the US, to be able to. I have a favorite football team here in Gothenburg, and they are really crappy now. But I was asked to choose to curate the music on the home games. So, yeah, funny things in life.
Where can people check out your work? How can they find you?
Oh, I guess my page on Discogs is quite long. Or pages, or whatever. I'm on the social media. It's easy. People, and that's the thing these days. Some people call me or text me or email me or write on Instagram or write on Messenger, and all of those contact ways are perfectly fine. I've been producing a French band from Paris lately. Their record label contacted me through Instagram 2 years ago and asked if I wanted to produce the second album of this band. So, yeah.
Thank you, Hans, for this really in-depth, insightful, wonderful, and warm conversation with you. Thank you for the work that you've done with artists, particularly Jose Gonzalez, who I'm most familiar with. And again, this album, I cannot recommend it enough. Against the Dying of the Light came out this year. It is a pure sonic beauty in so many different ways. I want to read some quotes to you, but this time we ain't talking about them. These are all by Rick Rubin, again, another legendary producer. And this is what he says about art, creativity. He says the audience comes last. The artist and the work come first. He says creativity has rules. The rules are there to help you find your way. And finally, the ability to look deeply is the root of creativity. To see past the ordinary and mundane, get to what might otherwise be invisible. My name is W, host of this podcast feature known as Surprisecast. And I will remind my listeners this: great production, mixing, mastering, and music is all around us. All you really have to do is keep your ears